Welcome to another episode of Eat Saigon. I am Vanessa, and today I wanted to showcase a vegetable that it's an acquired taste for some, but in Vietnamese cuisine, we do use it quite often, especially when it comes to soup. So it's none other than bitter melon. And as you may have guessed it, the name comes from the fact that it is a little bit bitter when you eat it. So we actually make it in two different ways. In Vietnamese cuisine, we make it in a broth. We stuff it with meat, we stuff it with wood ear mushrooms and some vermicelli. And then the other way that we usually do it is chopped up, stir-fried with eggs. So I am going to show you how to make it both ways. And I do have a little family secret. Now, growing up, bitter melon was just terrible for me to eat. And my mom always forced it on me. She always talked about the health benefits that bitter melon has. She talked about how it was good for your skin. She talked about how it was good for your immune system. In some cases, they've talked about how it helps with cancer. So growing up, my mom always tried to make me eat bitter melon. But as a kid, who likes to eat anything bitter? So my mom, what she did was, she would typically take bitter melon, and she would boil it first. So she would boil it in a pot of water for about 3 to 4 minutes to get rid of as much bitterness as possible. And then she would take it out of the pot and then cook it in whatever way that she did. So we're going to start off with cooking it in soup. And how we're going to do that is we're going to stuff it with none other than ground pork. So I have here about half a pound of ground pork, have some green onions in there, and of course, my favorite chili. We have here the vermicelli that's been boiled for about 3 minutes, and wood ear mushrooms. So we have about 3 cups of water boiling right now, and I am going to add in some chicken bouillon. Add in about 2 tablespoons. And that's just to cut it in half and then scoop out the insides. Okay, so now we're going to start with the stuffing for the bitter melon soup. I'm going to add in some salt and pepper. We have our vermicelli. Add that into the meat mixture. And now we're going to add in the wood ear mushroom. I'm going to just toss that in there. We're going to mix everything together, and then we're going to stuff the bitter melon, and then we're going to throw it into the pot for about 15 minutes. Make sure it's packed really tightly. So if you notice here, we actually have some extra meat. And I like to always have extra meat because I don't like to always have it in the bitter melon. I actually like to make meatballs out of it. Okay, now we're ready to dump everything into the boiling pot of chicken broth. I'm going to throw in the meatballs. Throw in the bitter melon. So now that the bitter melon is in the soup, we're going to let that boil for about 15 minutes. And we'll come back to it and take a look, and then it should be ready. And we'll have a nice bowl of white rice with it, and we'll sit down and enjoy it. Okay, so while we're waiting for the soup to finish, we'll get started on making bitter melon the other way. And that is going to be bitter melon chopped up, and we're going to stir fry that with eggs. Once again, with bitter melon, you always want to get the insides out. So scrape out all the seeds. Thinly slice it. Okay, so now the soup looks just about ready, and you can tell because the bitter melon has kind of that translucent color to it. And the meatballs are nice and brown and well done. So we're gonna set this aside on the table over there and then get started on the stir-fried bitter melon and eggs. So while the pan is warming up, I'm going to scramble 2 eggs. We're gonna add in our vegetable oil. And then we're gonna get started on the bitter melon. Going to add in a little bit of salt and pepper, and then a little bit of the salt and pepper into the bitter melon. Just quickly stir that. I like to add a little bit of green onions on top. It smells so nice. All right. So now that the soup is just about done, I'm going to pour a couple of spoonfuls into my bowl, and I'm going to enjoy with some rice. I'm going to add in some extra green onions, and I'm going to put in just a little bit of cilantro. All right, and there you have it. Bitter melon soup, stir-fried bitter melon with eggs, and a bowl of rice. So let's sit down and enjoy this together. Finished making bitter melon 2 ways, which is bitter melon stuffed soup and bitter melon stir fried with eggs. I don't know about you guys, but I am starving, so let's dig in. The bitter melon has that perfect texture, crunchy, the eggs are great, it's perfect, well done. I added some chili peppers on top, of course. Gotta have that. The bitter melon wasn't too bitter as well. It's typically hit or miss with bitter melon. Sometimes when you buy it, it's just like buying peppers. It can be really bitter at times, or it can be mild, so you really don't know. But remember my secret tip, if you want to make sure that it's not too bitter, just boil it beforehand for about 3 to 4 minutes. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the soup here. Wow. So this really brings me back to my childhood days. It's so good. The meat is perfectly cooked. You can see that it has the wood ear mushrooms in there. It has the noodles, The bitter melon gave it a good balance of flavors because the chicken broth, it's got that savoriness to it, and then the bitter melon, slightly bitter, but I like it. So before I say goodbye, this entire meal cost about $100K, which is roughly about $4 in US price. The bitter melon, super cheap. You can find it at your local Asian market. I used 2 eggs. Eggs are super cheap. Ground pork, I used about half a kilo, half a pound of that. Always have some white rice on hand. And you've got yourself a meal. Look at this. I mean, I think this is enough for 2 days for me for lunch and dinner. So if you like what you saw today, please subscribe, please like, please let me know your thoughts. I know bitter melon is not for everyone, but let me know if there's a way that you make it that makes it more tasty, or if there was a childhood recipe that your mom taught you that you'd like for me to learn and to share with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. Thank you everyone, and see you next time. Bye.